Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life with Shenita. We are so delighted that you are joining us this evening as we continue our conversation on Is Your House in Order? Tonight, the focus will be on banking matters. And I have the privilege and the pleasure of having two amazing ladies to join me as we talk about banking matters and how it relates to getting your house in order. As many of you all know, this broadcast has been ongoing since April of 2020, but I actually started the conversation about getting your house in order back in 2017 after losing my husband suddenly, unexpectedly, and we did not have all of our I's dotted, nor did we have our T's crossed. And I want to make sure that everyone that hears this conversation or who meets me are really thinking about their personal affairs before they get ill or before they die. We all know that we're going to travel down that road, and we want to be as prepared as we can be so that we can protect those that we love. And love is an action word, and we want to make sure that we are doing what's necessary to make sure our family members and our loved ones do not have to go through additional stress because we did not take the time to handle our affairs. So without further delay, I'd ask you all to please like and share this post because the information is relative to everyone that is on this earth, whether they're a child or an adult, whether they're a seasoned senior, it is relative. So we want to make sure that we are equipping people for the journey. So I am going to invite my guests in this evening. We have two individuals that have over 20 years of banking experience, and they will introduce themselves to you guys in just a moment. So sit back, get your notes, note paper and your pen so that you can jot down this information and be able to reference it later. Good evening, Miss Thornton.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I so
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you so much. And then
Pleasure.
Miss Maritza Woodfolk. Thank you as well for joining us this evening.
Again, thank you for the invite. I'm so excited about tonight.
Yes.
Very important topic.
It really is. And so I would like to start out by allowing you ladies to introduce yourselves in whatever manner you'd like to introduce yourselves to the audience. So we'll start out with you. Nicole Thornton, will you do us the honor of introducing yourself?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. As Shenita stated, my name is Nicole Thornton, and I am a banking and finance professional. I've been in the industry for a little over 30 years. That encompasses a great deal. And so I'm delighted to be here tonight with you guys to share some information that I feel is extremely valuable and hopefully will help that process or streamline that process when the time comes.
Man, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Maritza.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Maritza Woodfolk. I am Executive Administrator at Penn Air Federal Credit Union. I've been there for almost 25 years, but tonight I'm coming to join in the conversation with Nicole and my cousin Shenita, and also just give you personal testimony of what I had to go through when dealing with my mom and dad who passed away. So I'm excited about this very important topic. So get ready, y'all.
Yes, as I said, like and share the post. You get your paper and your pens and pencils and take notes because, a lot of times we think, I've got it all together and we may have never thought about passing away. We may not have ever thought about our family members passing away or getting sick to the point where we could not handle our affairs financially. We don't have anybody designated with a power of attorney. We don't have a living will and testament. None of those things in place. So we want to make sure that people are thinking. We don't want you to think this is a topic that I don't want to talk about. We must talk about it. I know it's not our favorite topic, but we must talk about it. So with that being said, let's begin our conversation. So when I think of banking, I was a single mom for many, many years, and I was the only person on my bank account. You know, you don't want anybody to know your banking business. I don't want nobody to know my. I don't want nobody to know my business.
They can't get my money, honey.
So what do? We keep it all on lockdown. Something happens, and what's to do? So I want us to talk about, why is it important to have a plan of action in place with our banking in the event or when the time comes when we need it, whether we are sick and cannot handle our own personal affairs and we pass away and we do not have maybe somebody listed payable upon death, we don't have a will and no one can get to our funds or what have you. Let's talk about that. Nicole, let's talk about why is it important for us to have a POD or our banking affairs in order. Let's talk about what is a POD.
Well, a POD is a payable on death, and it designates a beneficiary in the event that we pass away, or not in, but when we do pass away, we have a designated individual as a beneficiary who's responsible for handling all of our financial affairs. And I think more as equally as important, especially during these unprecedented times, such as the pandemic, if we know of someone, that unfortunately has passed on, or they've been in the hospital for weeks or months at a time, and didn't, to your point, have an individual, it wasn't out a joint account, or they didn't have anyone that could assist with their affairs, it can be very challenging. And so making sure that you have a joint account, or in some instances, you have a power of attorney, which is an individual designated to handle or assist you with all of your affairs. That's equally as important, because what you don't want to happen is when the time comes and there's no one in a will, or there's not a payable on death, then it makes it very challenging for anyone to be able to handle your affairs. They're kind of lost, and they become extremely frustrated and overwhelmed with just the death within itself of a loved one or someone very close to them no longer being on this earth. They've transitioned on, and now you're trying to just come to the realization that they're not here anymore. And then you go and you try to assist and handle the affairs, and you're not able to get anywhere if you don't have that payable on death, or that individual didn't designate it. It can be really, really difficult.
I have a friend, she's like a sister. She just lost a cousin about a few weeks ago to cancer. And we were kind of talking, and she was saying that I have money everywhere. Like I have lots of accounts, and I have accounts with my investments and we kind of talked about, well, did she write it down so that people will know where to go searching for it? Because if you don't have a plan of action, the state wherever you live has a plan of action for you.
And trying to navigate through that process is
yes.
It can be costly. Like you said, it's
very
frustrating.
costly. Yep.
And so we have to make sure that we are really thinking outside the box. We're not thinking morbid. We're thinking handling our business just like we handle other business affairs. This is a part of it. Me and my husband, we knew the importance of doing it. Guess what? We kept putting it off because we had other things that we thought were priority,
more important,
and we thought we had more time.
Yes, yes.
And so one thing was out on our hand.
One thing I wanted to add, and piggybacking off of what you said about all of the different accounts everywhere, you know how the state says, hey, there's lost money here, or there's unclaimed money here.
Absolutely.
And a lot of those accounts is because we couldn't find what you had. We couldn't find all of these little pieces because you were trying to spread the wealth, but now where's it going to go?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah, I think some people also do that because of the FDIC coverage. So those individuals that, have a substantial amount of money structure them in different financial institutions because they want to make sure that it's covered. And then sometimes in doing so, they forget to take care of their loved ones by making sure that everything is structured correctly.
Yes, definitely.
As my brother-in-law, I still call him my brother-in-law, but my first ex-husband's brother said he was advised by someone that worked as his supervisor. handle it from the grave. When you are really diligent about handling your business, you will handle it from the grave. They will be like, yep, he's still here.
Yeah.
Still here running things because
Definitely.
he dotted every I and he crossed it every
Everything.
T.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
we want to make sure, as you said, that we have a power of attorney to handle your affairs, or a living will in the event that you pass on, or you've designated someone to handle your affairs at the bank. They can come and get the money. If you're ill, as you said, in this pandemic, I can only imagine some of the cases that people have had to deal with because this area of their life was just like not important. People couldn't get to their money, and they lost this or lost that, or made it frustrating or a challenge for others who had to pick up the slack for them. So I can only imagine what that has been like. During this.
Imagine. Absolutely. You're in a situation, to your point, your mortgage can't get paid. Your rent's not able to get paid. You're not able to keep your utilities on. You can't pay your car note. And a month or 2 months later, in some cases, maybe even 3 months later, you don't have anything. And that's a result of not planning correctly. And I think all of us can attest to that. This pandemic, man, it's, just really put us in a position to look at things differently. Even something as simple as life insurance. Some of us don't even have that. And so understanding the importance of making sure that all of your affairs are in order, it's critical. Now is the time. There's no time like the present.
Exactly. And that's how this started in April of last year, at the beginning of the pandemic. And God kept saying, you have to talk about it more now than ever before because of this number of rapid lives that we're losing. And I went to a funeral a few weeks ago, and I was talking with the daughter of the person who passed away. And one thing she said to me, she said, I know this doesn't sound possible, but it's the truth. I never thought about losing my mother. I never thought about losing my mother while I'm alive. Like, never thought about that. And so there are many people out there who don't think about it. They only think about life. And so they don't think about the possibility of, what if I pass away and I am no longer here? What does that look like for my loved ones? And when we love our family members, we have to take the time to prepare for all aspects of life and prepare them too.
What's good about that? Well, not good. I'm sorry. We have to think about our kids too, because the way COVID is taking people, they're taking couples. I mean, so you might say, hey, my husband may go before me, or my wife, but they're taking couples like days apart.
Yes.
And it's like, have we prepared for that? I called our cousin the other day and I'm like, hey, can I go ahead and put you in our will to take care of our son if something were to happen? Because we don't think about those things,
because we only want the good part of life, and death is a part of the journey. And so it's the unknown. And I always tell people that we know our birth date, we don't know our end date, but it's still a part of the journey. And so we have to prepare in that time frame. Before that time happens, we have to be very diligent. And the Bible speaks about handling your affairs. There are many, many, many scriptures that talk about handling your affairs. And so we want to make sure those people who are dependent and reliable on us we are taking the time to handle those things.
Yes. Yes.
But someone put in the chat just now and said, I had 4 girlfriends lose their mothers in less than 30 days.
Wow.
So people are leaving here, and particularly now with this variant or variants of this virus, we really have to think about it even more so, because we just don't know. We do not know. And so I want to have this conversation. I want to make sure people are comfortable having the conversation, because you've got to get to a place where, it's a difficult one, but there are a lot of difficult conversations. But we have to have them. And then there's action behind the knowing. Now we know and we're thinking about it. So what's the action behind knowing what we know? Let's go do it.
Right. I think we can I can take care of my affairs. I understand my husband basically does a lot of the bills, but I know what's going on. But one day after talking to you, I sat down, I'm like, okay, no, let's sit down and make a little binder or a file so that I know where everything is, because he knows where everything is, but I'm the organized person. I'm like, I need to know where everything is. Okay, where is this stuff? We have this on the USB. Where's our insurance? What's the insurance, policy numbers? We have an account here. What kind of insurance do you have on your job that I don't, that I may or may not know about?
Mhm.
So we had to sit down and just go through that stuff. To me, I felt better afterwards, because if he did go before me, I'm going to be all messed up mentally. And I don't want to have to try to figure out, where is this, or what do I have? So it's so important for us to sit down. Again, no, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to think about them leaving us. But reality is somebody's going to leave.
Exactly.
And we have to be ready.
We have to be prepared for it. And that's the bottom line. We have to be prepared. I was actually talking to a colleague the other day, and we were talking about passwords. And I was like, man, I can't think of that password. And we both started laughing. And he said, my boss told me to use this site called LastPass. And it's a free account where you can store all of your passwords in one place. Can you imagine being able to store them someplace so that people can have access to them when they need them? The key is not to forget that password.
Well, I'm very, I'm 50. I'm old school. I am afraid. My IT department has made me so nervous about different things. I'm afraid to store all of my stuff in something electronically. So I go old school. I have like an address book,
Yes, write it down.
and I have my passwords in that, and it's hidden, but my son knows where it is. My husband knows where it is, so that they can get it. So, maybe one day I'll do the electronic password.
In addition to.
In addition to.
Right. In addition
but
to.
It's good. Especially when on your phone passwords, everything getting into your phone. We need to know these things. And it's so hard. If you have an iPhone, it's hard to get in there if you're gone. If you've passed away, they're like, no, we can't let you in. We'll have to reset the whole phone.
Right.
We just need to be prepared. We just need to be ready.
We have to handle our business. And that's and our personal business is a part of that. Those affairs, just like we handle our work affairs, and we're very meticulous about all of those things. This part of our life is probably, to me, more important than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah. Yes. So we just have to make sure that we're like you. And I'm so glad to hear you say that you and your husband sat down and talked about a game plan for your family. Because as you say, he knows everything, but what about you? So if one of us passed away, and it happened with me, when Winston had a heart attack for those 30 days, those 21 days that he was in ICU, was very, very difficult, very, very challenging. I'm already stressed, hoping that my husband will recover. And then there were some things, of course, our finances were all joint, but there were some other affairs that were not. And I had to go to probate and spend money that was really unnecessary if we had taken the time to handle the things we knew to handle. We knew, but we just kept saying, oh, we'll get to it. Oh yeah, we do need to do that. Oh yeah, we'll get to it.
Yes. We always think we have more time.
We don't put off tomorrow what you can do today.
Yes. Yes.
And back to the banking piece, I actually did a workshop probably about 2 years ago, maybe, at this church with a men's group. And I said to the men, I said, and you don't have to show your hand, but for the sake of this demonstration, please raise your hand. How many of you guys have secret bank account? Everybody like, she didn't ask me that. Nobody knows about that bank account but you. And I said, you need to make sure that there's a POD on that account. Because how many married men have secret bank accounts? Yeah, they were looking at me like, how many? Because
you're not gonna make it out of here tonight.
No. I need you guys to go to that bank. This is on a Saturday morning. I need Monday. I need to go to the bank and handle your business. Place somebody on that account. So if they don't walk away from anything tonight about banking affairs, I want to make sure they understand the importance of that POD. designating someone, listing someone on that account so that they can receive those funds when the time comes. Not if, but when time comes. And then we have to make sure we revisit those people that we designate, because the relationship could have changed.
Yes.
What could happen to them? So we have to go back and revisit those things and make sure that we are really, truly on top of things. Because I've heard too many stories about people on jobs. They have life insurance. And I'm going to say this again because it's that important. They have life insurance on their jobs, right? They get a divorce. They get remarried. But they never change the policy to the new wife or the new husband. And then when they died, the ex is the one who is receiving the funds. Now, we do know that some people will be very loving, and they will handle the financial affairs related to that person in the event that that current spouse can't afford it, say in the event of a funeral. No other funds are in place. But then there are some people who will say, really? You expect me? I'm not contributing nothing. So I'm saying we just have to make sure that things are in place so that people won't have to deal with the challenges that will come as a result of us not doing so.
Yes. Yes.
Shenita, you definitely. I mean, you're so right. Even down to, just real estate, making sure that if, for example, if you're a single individual and you purchased your home just under your name, it's nothing wrong with completing a quick claim deed, with an attorney, to have another designated individual other than yourself on the deed. I have a situation where I know someone personally that's going through something comparable to that. And these are with siblings. Unfortunately, the deed was just under one individual's name, and that individual passed away. And even though there is a will in place, they find themselves in probate. So taking those additional precautionary measures to make sure that you over and over, and over, if you can, from every different angle, to ensure the individuals that you want to have those things, they receive them. Because sometimes a will isn't enough. Right. And sometimes having a payable on death just isn't enough. Right. Sometimes having a joint account isn't enough. So if you cover it from every single angle to make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that that individual or individuals will receive what you've designated for them, it just makes life a whole lot easier.
Yes.
That is so important. Go ahead, Maritza.
I was just going to piggyback off of what Nicole said about the quick claim deed, and it's getting into the journey with my mom. I moved back from California because my mom had some health issues or whatever, and so we ended up doing a quick claim deed to add my name on, not really even thinking that she was going to totally get sick to where she couldn't do anything else for herself or whatever. But I thank God every day I did that quick claim deed to add myself on there, because it gave me the opportunity to make some decisions that I wouldn't have been able to make if my name was not on there. So, I mean, it's so important to have a backup on everything that you have. Not only that, with my husband, I have some stepkids. So we actually even sat down, what Nicole was saying earlier, make sure people get what you want them to get. We're like, okay, this one will get this one will get this percentage, this one will get this percentage. So it's nothing that will catch us by surprise. It's already there. And these are tough conversations that you don't even think about. You're like, oh, I'm leaving 100% to my spouse. Okay, that's great. But what if both of you guys pass at the same time? Then what?
You got to have something. You got to have something in place that's clear. And if both parents pass away and they have young children that are dependent on them, you want to be very specific about how you want funds distributed. Because we all know that until you're about 30, your brain really isn't as great in terms of maturity. And so if we leave $100 to $300, $1 million for $500,000 for a young person, with no instructions, we don't designate, I want this amount to go to them every month for 10 years. It's gone, right? And so I think that, we really have to drill down and not be, just right here at this moment. How far do we drill down? You know your family members. You know what the plan is. If they need you to be responsible for them for 10 or 15 more years after you're gone, then you got to plan that out. You know what I mean? And divvy
Yes.
out those funds in a healthy manner, in a planned manner.
Yes.
Because when people die and the money's involved, people get crazy.
They
Yes.
act really crazy. I think, to your point, Shenita, a lot of times we live for today, and, society has made us think that you live for the moment, enjoy it, have fun, do
Yes.
everything that it is that you want to do. But what if something happens throughout that course, right? And you're not prepared? It can be a nightmare. It can
Yes.
truly be a nightmare for a young person who doesn't understand finances, who's not equipped with, making sure that things are handled in order. So throughout that entire process, it's just really, really, it's critical to get your affairs in order.
Yeah, and I love what Marissa said when she said, she feels more comfortable now that they took the time to handle that part. Now we can enjoy life. We always, I'm living my best life.
Yep.
Hey.
If you don't handle your business, you're going to be going back and forth with somebody.
Yes. Yes.
So we want to be able to live our best life, and we want our family members and those loved ones that we want to designate this and that for to be able to do that too. And then
whoever, go ahead.
have a conversation. Have a conversation around the table, so there's no secrets. You know how people have. Let's talk. Tell the family what the plan is. What do we want to see? What are you doing for us? What should we expect? What do you want? So there's no questions. Write it down. Have the conversations, but have it in writing. As the funeral director said last week. So there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It is written.
I'm sure you guys can attest to this. In corporate America, they always say, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
You can think it as much as you want to. You can have it all up here. But if it's not in writing,
it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Yeah. And Marissa, I want you to share, go in more detail about your testimonies with your parents. Starting with whichever one first.
My mom passed away first. She passed away in 2008. And again, wasn't expecting it, had a stroke and just never bounced back. But luckily, prior to that, I had started the process of adding my name to different things. So made sure I had a power of attorney, and you have to make sure you have the right power of attorney also, because there's some that you can do some things with, but not others. So always make sure that you have something that will cover all of your bases. And we found that out with my mother-in-law. We needed a different power of attorney for mortgage type things. So just make sure that you do that. But I was so truly blessed that I was forward thinking on making sure I was added to bank accounts, to the house through the quick claim deed. So when time came, it was easy to do everything I needed to do because I had the authority to do it. Even to the fact that when she was in the hospital or getting ready to go to long-term care in the nursing home, I went ahead and pre-planned her funeral. I know that's not banking, but we went ahead.
It's handling your affairs, so you're fine.
Yes, we went ahead and pre-planned her funeral. And I had a friend that said, wow, she's not even dead yet. That's kind of morbid. And I'm like, look, I'd rather have everything planned out now. So when time comes, it's there. I don't have to stress. I don't have to worry about it. But not only that, statistics show that you spend more money when you're emotional. So if you go ahead and plan it out when everything's still good, you have it, you're more rational. So you're not overspending, that kind of thing. So everything was planned out. So when her time came, the funeral was paid for, her burial was paid for, and missing her was the hardest part. The business part was easy because I did what I needed to do ahead of time. My dad was kind of a different story because his sister took care of him, but she didn't even realize she didn't have, I won't say she didn't have everything in order, but she took care of him for the majority of his life, but never really put her name on certain stuff. So when it was time to make decisions at the end of his life, they called me because I was his last
Mm-hmm.
child,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of a shock to her that they called on me after everything that she had done. I mean, we have a great relationship, so it wasn't like she didn't trust me to do what
Mm-hmm.
I needed to do or make the decisions, because I'm like, look, she took care of him all of his life.
Mm-hmm.
But if she had just taken one more step to put her name on some stuff, then I wouldn't have even come into play. But again, if I had been vindictive or whatever, I could have been like, look, I'm the last child. I can do whatever I
Exactly.
want because everybody's calling on me and not paying attention to what she said. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, no, she's the one that took care of him. What do we want to do?
Mm-hmm.
But that just goes to show that every I has to be dotted, every T has to be crossed, no matter how hard it is. I'd rather for it to be hard now than
Yes,
hard later.
absolutely.
But again, truly blessed being forward thinking with my mom and adding my name on stuff and being able to just transfer, just do the stuff I needed to do, take care of business, answer questions, on her behalf.
Mm-hmm.
It was just simple. It was simple. When we do things that, ahead of time, it just makes things so much easier.
That's so much easier because, as you
Yes.
said earlier, the stress of losing a loved one in itself is enough to deal with. And then when
Hmm.
you add on the fact that you have not handled your business, and the added stress is a bit much. And
Yes.
you can't grieve. I wasn't able to grieve during that time because of the added stress that I had to contend with. And
Hmm.
I really beat myself up over and over and over again because we knew what to do, but we kept putting it off. And so I
Right.
can't say that enough. We can be as intelligent as we want to be. We can know as much as we know, but if we are not putting what we know in action, it means nothing. And that's in every area of our life. So whether
Right.
it's health, healthy eating, exercising, handling our banking affairs, whatever. If we're not utilizing the knowledge that we've gained to benefit us or to be a positive asset, what is it for?
Right. You have
You
to
know,
also, when you make these decisions, make sure you're putting the right person in play to take care of
Mhm.
things for you. And when I say that is because if anything happens to my husband and I at the same time, we had to sit down and say, okay, we have a minor, we have a 16-year-old who can't take over that stuff until he's 18. So I we had to make sure that we had the right person that we trusted
Mhm.
that would be able to handle our affairs to take care of our son until he reaches the age that he needs, that where he can handle his own affairs. So we reached out to a relative that we both agreed upon, and we contacted them and said, hey, would you be willing to handle this if anything were to happen to us at the same time? So again, you really have to trust that person because that's a lot of responsibility. And you just don't want to give everything over to that person and they do not take care of your child.
Right.
So those are things you really have to take seriously. Think about those things.
And that's why I mentioned going deeper into a trust, um, or designating, specifics. Because if you designate the wrong person and they don't handle things, and you know that you have a minor, or you know that you have an elderly parent, or whatever the case may be, or spouse, who's going to make sure that they're taken care of for as long as you like for them to be cared for?
Hmm.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean? And so we
Exactly.
really, really, really have to take it seriously. And Nicole, I'm sure you know and have seen, even business accounts where there's been chaos,
Mm, God, yes.
where there's no one designated or whatever the case may have been.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those situations where whether it's your personal or your business, making sure that it's structured correctly. And I always share with business owners, make sure that you're speaking with an attorney or an accountant that can advise you as to how you should structure your business, because those are the types of things that are going to make a difference when there is a situation or something that occurs that needs to be handled. Understanding and making it easier for all of those individuals involved is really important.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That is so true. And Marissa, I'm sure you're in the credit union industry, and I'm sure you've seen that as well.
Yes, definitely. I mean, people coming up there crying, trying to take care of their loved ones' affairs at the time. And it's like, we can't do anything because your name was nowhere on. We can't even give you any information. We can't say if they have money in the account or what, if your name is not on that account. You just can't.
Wow.
You just can't do it.
And,
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 you
Yeah.
know,
and I'm sure to see them walk away is,
It's
you know,
heartbreaking.
it
mhm,
is very
It is.
heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah. I mean, because, and even sometimes, when it's a situation where I remember my mother, God rest her soul, she passed away of cancer years ago. And, even something is down to when they get to a point where they're not able to care for themselves, if your name is not on that account, just being able to get medicine, being able to get the necessities that they need while they're here in order to survive. It's
mhm,
just critical that we make
Yes.
sure that the business affairs are handled. I'm sure we see it all the time on social media and different platforms where they're setting up GoFundMe's because the individual did not have life insurance, did not have the funds set aside for burial. And so making sure that we put ourselves in a position so that our family members aren't challenged
Mhm.
with burying us or making sure that our affairs are handled, it's really important. Even when it comes to sending your children to college,
Mhm.
saving for their future, creating a 529 plan so that when the time comes, your affairs are in order. They're not
Mhm.
putting themselves in a position where they're incurring so much debt. That's not the way that we want our children
mhm.
to start their life,
Right.
right? So making sure that we plan for those things is critical.
Mhm.
And would you all, you're absolutely right. I would like for you to, Nicole and Maritza, let's talk about that 529 plan or a savings account plan for minors, and um, maybe how it should be structured or set up for them, or what we should think about it so that we can really help young people develop a healthy relationship with money.
Mm.
So so they, or even understand banking. I think they're so smart today that we can actually, have those conversations or take them into the institutions and help them develop a healthier relationship or what have you. Can
I
we
mean,
kind of
to your
speak to
point,
that?
yeah, I mean, to your point, you hit it spot on. Whether it's a savings account, you can structure that as soon as they're born.
Mhm,
It's the parent's name custodian for the minor. The
mhm,
minor's not able to have access to those funds.
mhm,
It's typically earning interest. So it's not just sitting there, and you can even structure it where it's automatically coming out of your checking account, going into a savings account on a weekly, bi-weekly, or even monthly basis to actually put you in the routine of saving for their future. And with the 529 plan, there's a tax advantage, right? So if you're speaking with a financial advisor that can help you structure those funds so that you're maximizing the return that you're going to get on those dollars, that's
Mhm.
really important. And if you start soon enough, by the time that they're ready to go to school, the education is paid for.
See,
Mhm.
that's the key right
Yeah,
there, and
Yeah.
that's a part of having our affairs in order.
absolutely.
That's a
And
Yes.
part of
and
that banking process. Yes, Maritza.
yes, I was just going to say, piggybacking off of Nicole, we've even
Mhm,
taught my son about investments. So right now, we gave him just a little play account. He does it through SoFi or whatever, and we're like, we give him so much money. So first of all, we give him commission. We don't give allowance. We give
mhm,
commission. You have to do something to get it. So he has his commission. He has to give his tithes, and then he has to. That's first. He has to also invest some in his little SoFi account, and then he can spend some and then save some. So he has different pockets for him to do that. But right now we're teaching him how to invest, and he's getting really excited. He's like, "Oh, I'm glad I bought into this, or I'm glad I bought into that." And oh wow, I should have gotten more shares on that. I wish my family or my mom or somebody had taught us how to do that. We'd be
I
millionaires
know.
right now,
Oh my
you
goodness.
know. But teaching them how to do those types of things that others have been taught all of their lives,
Mhm,
we have to get our kids to understand this stuff now. But he has to, number one, I'm sorry, we tithe, we believe in tithing, so
mhm,
you
mhm,
have to give your tithes first.
mhm,
So
mhm.
yes, we're going to give you a
That's how we
commission.
raise it. Mhm,
Yes, we're going to give you a commission every 2 weeks when we get paid, but you have things that you need to do. And then we have our his money college fund into like investments. So we have a financial advisor that that structuring and all of that stuff there. But again, we need to have their affairs in order because I don't want him to have to do any student loans if possible. I'm praying to God that we don't need that. But if we can keep our kids out of debt and teach them things that our parents weren't able, I won't say that they didn't know themselves. So they couldn't teach us that. But if we get into the habit of teaching them everything that we're learning now and studying and finding out what the other people know that we don't know and get into some of that, that would help them in the long run. But, it's very empowering to give them information to help them for their future, to help them determine their future, So yeah, don't be afraid of investments. Make sure you're starting early for college. Have the baby, go ahead and go to a credit union or bank right away.
Right.
Start it.
I love the fact that you said commission. Tell us a little more about that conversation with this young man. What age did y'all start the commission, project with him?
He was probably 3, maybe 3. And I have to give credit where credit's due is earlier in my marriage, we started doing the Dave Ramsey, following him. And that where he talked about commission. He's like, kids shouldn't feel like they're entitled to something, oh, you need to give me allowance. You're not entitled to anything. That's our money. You need to work for it. So you can do something. You can take out the trash. You can clean up your room. You can clean up the bathroom. Okay. If you've done those things, you earn commission on those things. If you don't do those things, guess what you get? Nothing. So it gives them a little work ethic at an early age. So and not a sense of entitlement.
Right.
Just because I'm your child, you give me money. No, you need to earn it.
I love that. I've done the Dave Ramsey class too, and I remember him talking about that, and that's an awesome concept because I think that has damaged so many of our young people over the years that they have this sense of entitlement, like you owe me this.
Yes.
I don't have to work for this. I can take this if you don't give it to me.
Exactly. No.
And so, yes, that's a great way to get them used to earning their dollars. And then I love the fact that you say you gave him a little account to invest and to play with, because many times, we've not invested because we're not risk takers.
Right.
And so that will give him an opportunity to take some risk with this money and see, if it works or if it doesn't work or what have you. And I love the fact that he said, man, I should have bought more of those, or I like that I made that move or whatever, on the chessboard.
Yes. He said, I should have bought more Airbnb, Mom. It was 100 when I bought my first one. Now it's 200. So I'm like, whoa, okay. You're learning some stuff.
I'm loving it. So will you please
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Share that site again, because I want the listeners to be able to go there.
The one we do is SoFi.com. My husband found that one. SOFI.com. And then you just set it up and you hook it. Like I can transfer money from my account into his little investment account, and then he can invest. And I think I still had to have it under my name though, because of my age, but we allowed him to download the app to be able to transfer or buy investments.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
but I wanted to go, I'm sorry.
Because of his age?
Because of his age.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to go back to the commission when he was younger so that they could see it. We created a little bucket, a clear bucket, and we had it in his room. So whenever he would do something, we would put the commission in there. So, okay, I've done something, I've earned it, now I can see it. So a lot of times it's like, oh, I'm not going to do anything because I really can't see it. So at a younger age, that helped because they can actually see it. And that made him work a little bit harder. Different things. You have to learn what works best for your kids at different ages. Now it's just putting money into his account. It's like, okay, I transferred the money, it's over there. Let's see. But I'm so thankful that he takes tithing seriously. He takes savings seriously. And I'll say, okay, well, how much money do you have? Mom, do you think I just don't know what I'm doing? I know how to save money. I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure, but I'm glad he's learning these concepts now, because we're not going to be around forever. So I need you to know how to complete this journey if we're not here.
Right. And the only way we're going to do that is we have the conversations like we're having tonight around the dining room table, and we talk about the importance of these affairs, and we make them aware so that they can't say, well, I never was talked about. I was never talked about this in the house, in my home.
Yes.
Where it's supposed to start.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what? I think it's really interesting, Maritza, and kudos to you and your husband for
Yes.
teaching your son the value of a dollar.
Yes.
Unfortunately, today we've become accustomed to rewarding our children with material things, right? So we give them clothing, we buy them jewelry, we give them these things and we reward them with material things, making them feel and think that, oh, well, this is how I'm rewarded. All I have to do is say I want something and I get it, or if it's a holiday or if it's their birthday, instead of truly making sure that they understand the value of a dollar. So that when they become a full-fledged adult and those things are no longer given to them, how are they going to survive?
Right.
Do they understand the importance of managing a bank account? My daughter is a junior at Kennesaw State University, and she invests as well. And it's interesting, and I always get really excited for her when she calls to share the news with me that her investment portfolio has increased. And she's like, oh, Ma, guess what? It's like, what? And she's super excited about it, even down to when she purchased, I bought her first car. Her second car, she saved 50% of the down payment. And it's a 2017. So she was in a position based on, kudos to her husband, our dad and I, for putting her in a position to fully understand money. Why is it important? What do you do with it? Value a dollar. Don't just spend it because you have it, right? Because our kids today feel like if we give them an allowance, to your point, we allow them to have this money. They don't earn it. And then they take it and they spend it on things that aren't necessary. Absolutely. And when we go in the store, they spend all their money. So they're looking at us like, well, I want this. You gonna buy it for me? Oh, no, ma'am. Exactly. My daughter understands that unless it's a necessity, don't call me. Right. You work. You save your money for the things that you want. And it takes on a different feeling when they can get it with their own. They value it differently.
Yes, they value it differently. Absolutely. And I'm doing that right now with Madison. She has a credit union account, and you get to earn dollars and you get to spend half and you get to save half. And the half that we get to use, we teach the tithing piece too.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So principles, everybody doesn't believe in that same principle but for those of us who do, that's important.
Yes.
That's important along the journey.
One thing I want to share that may be a little fun, Shenita, if I may, is a website that I'm in Jack and Jill organization, and we put the teens through this little scenario website, and it's called playspent.org, PLAYSPENT.org. And what it does is it gives them like $1,000, and they have to make different. I'm sorry, it's just play money. Sorry.
Oh, play money.
It's virtual money. But they tell them, hey, you don't have family, you've lost your job, you don't have any relatives near you, you have $1,000 left to your name, and they throw a lot of scenarios at you. What would you do? Your rent is this amount. Do you want to pay it? Do you not want to pay it? How close do you want to live to your job? How far do you want to live to your job? You got to eat, but your mom needs medicine. Do you give her the $100? But they have to sit there and think. And it's amazing because some of the teens that I thought, oh, they couldn't do it out of cell phone. They had a choice, either pay for my cell phone or pay for electricity. And they were like, oh no, forget the cell phone. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So having them think about these things, because most kids don't know that electricity costs, Wi-Fi costs, all of this stuff costs, and they don't understand that concept. They think it's just free. It just shows up, but when they go through these scenarios, they're like, whoa, those are hard decisions you have to make.
Yes.
Can I make this money last?
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I don't know this org, but when I worked for the University of Georgia in Clayton County, we did these role plays with the teens. And you're right. we would give them a scenario. Here's your salary. You have a wife. If you're a husband, you have children. Blah 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 scenarios, and they had to work through that scenario by the end of that session.
Yes.
So is it playspent.org?
Yes.
Okay.
PLAYSPENT.org. I'll put it in our chat. And that way, if anybody wants to ask you about it, but it's really short, but they have to go through 30 days. It say, okay, you're on day 3. Okay, on day 7, you get a payday now. So it's really cool. It's really cool and eye opening to them.
Well, we had one comment here that someone said, as parents, we also have to teach our children they have to pay their way, as Nicole just said. If they're living at home, they need to contribute to rent, utilities, etc. I truly believe in that. Even if the parent doesn't, isn't used to it, or even, I think she said, even if the parent doesn't use it, or they can save it for later. This teaches them nothing is free, and they can save it and give it to them later. But they also, at the same time, are teaching them how this works in our setting. There's nothing free. When you leave this house, you're truly prepared to live and thrive. And that's what we want for our children. So before we close out, I want you guys to share some closing advice with the audience as it relates to their banking affairs, financial affairs, that they can be able to immediately use as we prepare to close out this evening's conversation, which has been absolutely amazing. Money matters.
It does. And well, first and foremost, I would just like to thank you, Shenita, for giving me an opportunity to join you tonight. It's been a lot of fun.
Yes.
What I'll share with everyone is, of course, as we've said already, and that's get your affairs in order. It's never too late to start. Make sure that you go to the bank tomorrow, call them over the phone and find out, what is it that I need to do to have a payable on death on my account? Who's in my family or close to me that I can add them as a joint individual on my bank account? If I don't have any insurance, let me get some. Make sure that my employer has the beneficiaries and the contingent beneficiaries in place. And if I have children, let me contact a financial advisor and find out about this 529 plan. Or let me start a savings account for my minor. And even if it's $5 or $2 or $1, you're starting somewhere. Create a budget for yourself. And if you don't know how to do so, Google is your best friend. And if that's not available, go inside your bank, sit down with a representative and say, hey, look, I don't know exactly what to do, but I know I want to start somewhere.
Yes, that is such great advice. Great advice. And I'm hoping that whoever watches tonight or in the future, that they're jotting down these notes and they are moving along the journey to get to that bank and handle their business as soon as tomorrow. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Nicole. Who wants to go after you? You said everything.
But I'm sure you have some great advice, Marissa. But that was good, baby.
Most of the stuff, I just want to say ditto to what Nicole said, and be serious and be vigilant about it. Let's not wait until tomorrow. It's not too early to start taking care of stuff. We always say it's not too late. It's not too early either. They can be young, let's get it done. Let's stop saying that we have tomorrow, because as we see through COVID, tonight's not promised to us. We can get off this call tonight and just not be here. Are we prepared for that? Sit down. My main thing is right now, sit down and have a talk with the people that you need to talk to, whether it's your husband, whether it's someone that's going to take over your affairs after you're gone, but do it now. I don't care if you don't have it all together, you don't have all your thoughts together. Start somewhere. We have to start somewhere, but we can't wait until it's too late and look back and say, gosh, I wish I had done this, or I wish I had gotten that answer. Thankfully, again, when my mom had her first stroke, she was still able to write a little bit. So thank God for that, because she was able to sign, her power of attorney and all of this other stuff. But what if she hadn't? What if not? So don't wait. Let's do what we need to do today to make this happen, to put our affairs in order, and we won't regret it. And this is just amazing, because it's time for us to get ourselves together and make it happen. So I am excited. Thank you. I'm like, okay, my husband and I need to go have another talk. Are we ready?
Absolutely. And with that 16-year-old, I'm sure he's going to have some scholarships. I want to encourage every parent, including yourself, to start looking at those scholarships and applying for those scholarships now. Now is
Yes.
never too early. Start.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
And that's part of teaching them too, being responsible. And it teaches them a skill as well.
Right.
So,
Right.
I'm hoping that, something we've said is going to stick and stay and really motivate people to move to the next level. Someone says so much great information, and another, the same person said, I'm so blessed to have done what the women suggested. So people are out there handling their business. So we want to give them kudos. We want to clap for them. We want to encourage those who haven't started yet to get started. Handle your affairs. Don't have secret accounts. If you do have secret accounts, get a POD, designate somebody to have those funds when the time comes. And if you get a will, a power of attorney in place so that if you get ill or when you get ill, if you get ill, because some people don't get ill, they lay down and they're gone. So make sure you have something in place for your loved ones to be able to continue to live. So I just want to say thank you again to you beautiful ladies for taking the time to conversate with the audience, with me this evening about banking matters, because they do matter. And we want to thank the audience for watching us tonight. Thank you for joining us. Please join us next week as we talk about surviving this pandemic. I have the pleasure of having Dr. Lane Rowling, who is going to join me, and we're going to talk about this pandemic. And so tune in next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we continue the conversation about life, anything dealing with life. And Life with Shenita started with the goal to help people overcome life's challenges and to encourage them to live a vibrant life. And we know by having your affairs in order, you'll truly be able to live a vibrant life, because you won't be worried about this or that, because you have taken the time to handle your affairs. In addition to that, if you have any suggestions, any questions about the show, would like to be a guest on the show, please send those questions or inquiries to scottshenita@AOL. And yes, I still have AOL. For those who are wondering, yes, and I do have a Gmail, but I love AOL. So with that being said, we want to thank you again for joining us tonight. And remember that I love you, but God loves you more. And again, ladies, you have been absolutely amazing on this opportunity to share about banking affairs. And so as we prepare, we have about 3 more minutes, and I just want us to kind of do just another round of thoughts that may be able to depart to the audience, maybe something that you want to reiterate to them, or something that you thought, man, I should have said that. If there's anything, here's an opportunity for us to do that.
Maybe it's not banking. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead, Marissa.
I was just going to say, maybe it's not banking, but even check with your high school students and make sure they check into like dual enrollment, if that's what is, if that's something, because it will save them some money. Banking. So, we have to look in those things. I'm not a helicopter mom, but I am a mom that I'm very involved, and I try to find different things that I need for him. And dual enrollment is another thing that we need to look more into, to make sure that they have an opportunity to move forward like others.
Yes, because that's money not spent, right?
I'm going to piggyback off of that. My daughter's 19. She's a junior.
Wow.
First and foremost, we owe it to God. And secondly, it's because of dual enrollment.
Yes.
We save thousands of dollars because she made the decision, not her dad or I, but she did, along with her counselor, to go ahead and pursue the dual enrollment. And she was only a couple of credits away from actually starting, not as a sophomore, but she would have actually started school as a junior. So I'm thankful for that.
Wow.
And to your point, Maritza, yes, please do it. Tell your kids, hey, when you gotta start paying back those loans, mom and dad ain't gonna do it for you. So you better go to school.
Yes.
Yes.
School enrollment. So you can finish faster as well, right?
Yes.
So it's a blessing for us. I'm just so thankful for it. It's really important. And it goes along with our theme tonight, which is get your affairs in order. And when our kids, they follow our behaviors. And when we teach them, they're gonna do those things and they'll grow up being the best that they can be. But if we don't show them and encourage them to be successful and walk with them on that journey, they won't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. I want to add to that, down with them and teach them how to pay bills. Teach them what that household budget looks like and take them through the whole process so they don't think it's just magic out there. Show them how to write a check. I know we don't use checks a lot, but I've heard so many people say, I never knew how to write a check until I became an adult. Nobody ever sat me down and showed me what a budget looks like, as you mentioned earlier, Nicole. So all of this is relative to banking affairs, or having our banking affairs in order, or banking. We want to have healthy relationships with money. We want to be confident when we walk into the bank that we know a little bit of something about money and handling our business. So thank you, ladies, again.
Thank you, guys.
It has truly been a pleasure. And I look forward to more conversations, whether on this platform or on some other platform. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, audience. And you guys have an amazing night.
Good night.
We'll see you next week. Good night.
Bye.